What is up, y'all? It's me, it's your boy Quaman Star G, and we accidentally deleted our new intro from the StreamYard. So we had to use the intro from our previous funeral episode. So yeah, we will probably do that from now on because it was so funny. But in any case, we are MulDiversity, your keys to the MulDiverse, and we have a very special, very special episode for you guys. A nice little sit-down interview. Get your tea ready, get your 40 ounces ready, get your Mad Dogs ready, if you need your relaxers, your Black and Milds and such. And so let me bring in the squad, and then let's bring in our illustrious interviewee. So first, starting it off with DAJUDGE, the Judge Avia. What is up?
What it do, everyone? We have a very special episode. It's gonna be fun. Let's go.
Facts on top of facts on top of facts. Now let us toss it on over to Mr. Aaron himself. He has not done goofed. Mr. Aaron Michael Johnson.
What's up, y'all? New angle, new touch angle. Like that intro. Oh my
MB has risen. MB has risen.
We have indeed risen. This way. It's been how many days? That's what's the record on that?
3 days.
Facts on top of facts. And furthermore, let's all go ahead and toss it on over to the omnipotent one, Mr. Odd Geek himself, Mike.
Who did that? Who did it?
Whoever deleted our brand spanking new intro.
Did it? Like that is a hot mess. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for coming out. It's gonna be so fun. I'm super excited. We're all excited. Let's get it.
Yes. Now, ladies and gentlemen, non-binary folks, everybody that exists in this beautiful universe of ours who currently are not working on robots to supplement us and take us out of the frame, we have a very special guest. Now, if you guys have been recent viewers of MulDiversity, you guys would know that there are a couple of clips we like to play from time to time to express various moods.
Looks like we're going to need professional medical help.
This is your Augie Doggy inspirational meme of the day.
And most importantly,
we're actually here to do what we do best. Scam.
And you probably asked yourself, by God, who would be a part of such magnificent animation? Who would be able to create such meme-tastic hilarity just with frames and scenes? And most importantly, why does Q keep shilling to go watch Jellystone on HBO Max? Why? He's not getting paid. Well, I wish I was, because it's a good show and I would like for people to watch it. But there is a person that is responsible, that's a part of an amazing team who is here, who has said, yeah, I'm going to kick it with these guys and see what they're all about. Ladies, gentlemen, non-binary folks, everybody in the world who tunes in right now, let us present to you Careen Ingle. Really hope I said that right. Let's go!
Hey guys. Love the intro. So glad you have me on. It's Careen.
Careen?
Yeah. I know the word care is in my name and I care a lot, but it's Careen.
Careen. So Careen.
But don't worry. I've heard my name's been pronounced many different ways over, but no. Yeah, you basically got it right. But yeah, it's Careen. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm so happy to be here. I'm one of the directors on Jellystone, and I wrote a handful of the episodes. And those clips you played, the first one and the last one are from my episodes. So like, I don't know. I'm glad you guys like him so much. That's it feels good. I'm not used to like people having like seen the shows I've worked on, so like it's nice to like have feedback and know that like people are enjoying it.
That show is a real like
hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Funny. Like I laugh I laugh every episode. Like cannot stop laughing. Like God.
Like the one thing that got me addicted to it was that clip with Tom because Q will play it all the time. We're here to what we do best. Skate. Okay,
yes.
Okay, I'm glad you guys like them because that I wrote that episode. So
yes!
Awesome.
Yes.
On Jellystone, we didn't have like a team. On most shows, there's like writers, and then they'll write an outline or a script, and then they'll send it to the storyboard team, and then they'll do it. But on Jellystone, the writers were the directors and the storyboard team, so we all came up with the outlines ourselves and wrote the episodes ourselves. So every episode you see was written by someone who was already on the story team. And Grocery Store and Cats Do Dance were the ones I wrote for this season that came out. So those two are mine.
Action.
Because the Grocery Store episode was
so I have you to thank for one of my favorite yes, and I have you to thank for one of my favorite quotes from Jellystone, which is a blaster. That's really not our style, Miss Thing. Okay, well, it's only for holding, not blasting.
That scene was funny because like that. So Cats Do Dance, when that was the first episode I like wrote the outline for, and I wrote so much to cram, and I'm like, surely we have to address this, and this. And then when we started boarding it, it was like, I don't know, 15 minutes long, and it's supposed to be 11. So we had to cut 4 minutes out of the episode. And like there was a whole montage where they go train to learn how to dance and like do kung fu on a mountain and do all these dance moves that would have been expensive and required a lot of new backgrounds. And then we were like, oh, the episode actually doesn't need this. So we cut it for time. But that was another scene that they wanted to cut for time. Was it's like, well, them talking about what they want on the whiteboard doesn't do anything for the story, like it doesn't progress the story at all. But I was all like, no, I'm not gonna, my bosses wanted me to lose the scene. And I was like, no, it's, in my opinion, the funniest scene. And also it may not affect like the story of this episode, but it does tell us who all these characters are and helps us get to know them and what they're all about. So like it is, a crucial scene that we should keep. And they're like, well, I don't know, if you can't get it down, you got to cut it. So, but we were able to kind of creatively like shave off half of a line here and there and bits from little scenes. So we were able to creatively edit around so that we could keep that scene, and everybody seems to really like it. So it was the right decision, it seems. And, it's the first time we saw all the cats too. So it's like, well, we got to know who they are and who they're all about. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Cause I agree 100. I think that was my initial reaction. Like, oh, this is an excellent way of establishing their personalities and their idiosyncrasies and just how they react to each other and how, they just keep, Top Cat, he's not just going to have the cool thing for himself. He's just going to go, okay, fine. I'm going to give you this cool thing. And I'm going to give you this cool thing. It was I'm glad you guys kept the
yeah, it was also really important that like they're like a fam, like they're not all blood relatives, but like they're a family. And so like, it was very important to me and some of the other people on the crew that it was like, okay, well, they don't call Top Cat boss. It's not like he's their leader and he's bossing them around and telling them what to do and that they're not equal. He's just the one who is the most ambitious and is the one usually coming up with a plan, but he's not better than them or their supervisor. And so that was like something that we wanted to sell, pretty hard. Where it's just like, no, they're all friends and nobody's better than everybody. It's just So it was like establishing that too. So it's like, even though he's like the leader, he's not the boss, you know. That's a more interesting dynamic.
Oh yeah, for sure. You definitely felt it in that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you do.
Yes. And furthermore, another thing about that episode that I just really enjoyed was how Top Cat would break down aspects of it, and to know that you wrote it. So when you, like, for instance, spoilers for the episode, watch it, and then, you know, then come back.
Spoilers for an 11-minute episode that's been out for months.
Well, you know, some people around here, they start, you know, they want to, you know, watch you outside your door. Like, I cannot believe they spoiled Jellystone after telling me to watch it, and they just. But the way that he broke down his plan afterwards, and just the way the dialogue flowed, and the way that they showed the scenes of it. What was the process in crafting that scene, from just the scripting and then storyboarding and then finally putting everything together?
Yeah, so when I write, and this is not the most effective way to write, and it has gotten me in trouble, not like in trouble, but it's been like, oh no, I messed this up for me, I made this hard for myself, was I tend to just think of funny things that I want to see, and then I'll build a story around it, which isn't the most solid way to construct a story sometimes. But it was like, with this episode I started with, it's like, oh, it would be really, you know, it's like, it would be really funny if it was like West Side Story and they were dancing, but the dancing had power. So it was like these two gangs, and they're like, oh, we're so tough, but the toughness is dancing. And then it's like, we know Top Cat and the gang, you know, their alley is where they live and they love it so much. So it's like, okay, that could be what they lose, you know, and then there's dancing, but then it's like, then their whole thing is scams. So it's like, okay, they got to do scams to try and get it back. But then, so it's like, I had like the beginning and the ending where it's like, okay, I know what happens at the beginning and what causes all these things to go wrong, you know, with this other gang showing up. And we know at the end they get their alley back. But then, like, I'm like, but what are the scams in the middle, you know? And so that was probably what I figured out last. So what we did was we kind of reverse engineered it. So it's like, well, how do we want them to win? And then what can we have the scams be that, because it's like all three scams end up being a part of the plan at the end. Like, they have the jet engine and the banana peels and all that. So it's like, okay, well, how can these all congeal into a plan at the end so that they weren't just a thing we did and then just kind of pushed aside and didn't reference again for the rest of the episode? So it was, we kind of reversed engineered everything. And granted, like, some of the ways they enter into the plan at the end are a little tenuous. Like, where it's like, we use the jet engine to bust through the wall, and it's a wall with a door right next to it. But it's like, but we had to use the jet engine from the parade because otherwise the parade doesn't come back. And then
I just figured the door was locked, so I just automatic. I was already all in.
You're very correct. It was locked, but didn't have to be. So it's just like, I don't know. You just kind of revert. It's like, what do I need to do to make this work? And then I think about it myself. I brainstorm with my coworkers, and then we come up with something that works. Because it's always a bummer if, like, a story has a thing, like an element in it, and then you don't, it's all planting and payoff. Like, if you show something in the beginning, it's always so much more satisfying to have that same element come in again at the end in a way that you maybe didn't expect, or maybe you did, but it's still like, oh, nice, that thing I saw earlier. So, and then, yeah, it was getting the satellite to lock on because they licked everything earlier, and then they locked the satellite onto the DNA, and their saliva was a 11th hour, like, oh, we can make this make sense this way.
I mean, the story checked out for me. I mean, I was all in. I'm just like, the science makes sense. You got the DNA.
Yeah. Well, whatever stuff like that doesn't add up.
Obviously, Jellystone would have the building that Great Ape would have to give them access to.
I don't know. It's whenever I'm watching something and things don't add up, I get really mad. And it's like, I just need them to add up. I don't care how stupid it is that they add up, but I need them to. We had a similar situation happened on Peabody and Sherman, which was also an outline-driven show, but it was writers wrote the outlines, and then the board team wrote the story, the dialogue, everything that happened, and then we solved all the problems that the outline didn't address. So so it's like I don't get writing credit on Peabody and Sherman, but all the directors and board artists also wrote that show too. But so there's an episode where they go to, I think, Victorian England and to meet the very first police dog in the history of police dogs, and it's Peabody's great uncle. And there's a part where, so the bad guy in that episode is John the Ripper, and he's farting on all of the big landmarks in London. And they're like, why is he doing this? And they're like, we don't know. He is, and we gotta stop him. He's an agent of chaos. And so he's been farting on all these landmarks, ruining it for everybody, and they need to find out where he's gonna fart next. And in the outline basically just said they look at the clues and figure out he's going to the Tower of London. I'm like, well, thanks, guys. Thanks for figuring this out for me. So it was like, I'm like, okay, I got to figure out what is it. Like, they did not, it's literally, they look at the clues. The outline doesn't indicate what any of the clues were. And then they figure out where he's going to go. So it's like, not only do I not know, was I not given a prompt for how they interpret the clues? I wasn't even given what the clues were that he is they are interpreting. And I'm like, oh, I got to do this scene right now. And then the pitch was the next day. So I'm like, okay, I still haven't figured this out. I really need to figure this out. So it was like, they went to Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. They went to, and then the other clues were just clues related to the bad guy. So it was 2 bean cans, and then we threw in he had a pocket watch that said "time to fart," which was just a joke clue that I just threw in at the end because I'm like, well, this clue's just funny, so we can just have it show up out of nowhere. But it's so it's okay, I made up these clues. So it's at the Wax Museum, it's okay, there was. It was there were a bunch of wax ducks that he had stepped on, because stepped on a duck is a term for farting that my family has always used. And then I realized no one had heard that term before. So it's why did he step on all these ducks? And nobody knew that was a joke. But we had the ducks and the bean cans and the pocket watch. And I'm like, well, how am I going to make these clues lead to the Tower of London? And it's well, why don't we there's a thing in England called Cockney rhyming slang, which is by incredible leaps and bounds, they make one word related to another word. They'll say apples mean stairs, because they're well, if you think apples, you think apples and pears rhyme with stairs. And it's okay, I guess that works. I guess that would be I would only figure that out if everybody my whole life called stairs apples, and I would know that you. But so it was we did that. So it's
that is amazing. Everything you just said that you had to come up with is amazing to me, based solely off of that. That is what I would do to justify the things that I say, and everyone here knows it, because I basically just try to find roundabout ways to justify my nonsense.
Yeah.
And
so it's we did, it's okay, so we got to get these clues to the Tower of London. So it was okay, he's got this pocket watch that says time to fart. Well, the watch measures time, and a measurement of time is an hour. An hour rhymes with tower. Okay, we got that. A duck is a bird. You know what's also a bird? A dove. And dove rhymes with of. And then the stupidest one was, it was 2 bean cans and they were both empty. And Mr. Peabody's they're done. done. London, the Tower of London. We gotta get there right now.
So I'm going to. I'm just letting you know. I'm going to steal that.
They use.
Right.
I'm stealing that logic to give to do to my family. I'm going to steal that logic to justify that. And Avia, Mike, Aaron, please be prepared for that logic to come up in a conversation at my choosing.
Nope.
Because is the most. That's the most hilarious troll / justification of anything I've ever heard of. Like, I'm going to have to watch that episode and just so I can take notes on how to craft, because that just, I probably, if there was an audience of like a viewing of that, I probably would have been laughing and cheering, because that is 100% my jam. And
it killed it. It killed in the room too. Everybody really liked it, but it was like, hey, like, the writers absolutely like threw like a brick in a pool, and they're all like, "Go save it, Careen." And I'm like, it's a thing. I'm not complaining. Like, this is just how it is. Like, it's on a lot of shows, it's like the storyboard artist's job is like, we don't just like figure out how everything looks and how everybody's entry. Our job is also to fix everything wrong with the story. So like, if it's executives don't always, I mean, I'm not like, in general, higher ups, like when they see a script, they're like, looks good. And then it takes until seeing it to be like, oh, wait a second, this doesn't work. Meanwhile, like a lot of us I can look at a script and be like, well, this is not going to work. We want to address this before we do the boards. And some people will just be like, well, it's not my job to fix it. And then they board it as is. And then it gets there and it's like, hey, this isn't working. This is your fault. You didn't fix it. And it's like, well, I was just doing what I was given. And it's like, no, just kind of the way the industry works and just the way the dice has fallen is, it's like the board artist is the one responsible for fixing it, even if they were handed something that doesn't 100% work to start with, which is one of the reasons why we in the Animation Guild are trying to, make sure that storyboarders get credited, for the writing that they do and the story adjustments that we do make. Because like right now, there's no distinction between a storyboard artist who works from a script or a storyboard artist that works from an outline or a storyboard artist that, like on Teen Titans Go, we build the animatic. So it's like we have all the sound effects and all the dialogue and we time it out and we animate it to a timeline with all the sound that we build. And like, those are three totally different kind of jobs and skill sets and processes. But when you look at the credits, it'll always just say storyboarded by. So that's been a guild thing that we've been trying to get through for a long time, where it's like, hey, we need to do something to kind of distinguish what specific duties like each person is doing on each show, because it can vary so wildly just with the same title.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. We have our longtime viewer Sylvia Hodges with, I believe this is a different American dialect. Vark. Oh no, that's a bot. That's a dead link. I'm sorry. That's a bot. Pay no mind to that.
What? Oh my god, let's keep it moving. I'm gonna ask this, since we was talking about Peabody and Jellystone, what has been your favorite episodes from both of those series?
Probably my favorite Jellystone episode is probably Cats Do Dance.
Okay, bet.
Because I like how many jokes we were able to. I mean, I like all the episodes I work on. I liked, and then just because Cats Do Dance. It just turned out so funny, and all the voice actors for all the cats and everybody are so good and funny, and they really brought them to life. So it's like I like that. And then, but Grocery Store too, because it's I don't know, it's kind of a story structure that you don't see in a lot of. It was just kind of like the problem was just kind of nebulous, and it was like I'm kind of wandering around the grocery store, and it I like that we were able to Megan and I were able to capture like the feeling of being a kid lost in the grocery store, kind of. For Peabody and Sherman, my favorite episode of Peabody and Sherman is they go to meet the the very first sumo grandmaster, Akashi Shigenosuke, who may or may not have actually existed in real life. He might be like a legend, but it was they go to Japan and he's very superstitious, and he gets a bad omen. He's like, oh no, I can't compete. And so it's them trying to get him back to the sumo arena to get him to compete. And meanwhile, so Peabody's trying to get him back to the sumo arena, and Sherman is like, I got to stall for time. So he has one of those inflatable sumo suits, and he's pretending to be him in the ring, even though he's a tiny boy in an inflatable suit and not, you know, a 400-pound sumo wrestler. And it just, I really like the colors they used for the episode too, and all the character designs, and it was fun to do. It was fun to do like an episode in Japan, because we hadn't gone to most of the episodes at that point. They had gone to Europe, so it's like we didn't have a lot of episodes that took place in Asia or Africa yet. So it was fun to get a new country that was that was different from all the other places we had been going. So that the sumo, and I also think that of all my Peabody, that's the one that like turned out the funniest.
Nice.
I don't know that the way you described that London episode, that sounded hilarious. So
that one is good, but the sumo, like I like that one, but it's like like that one is probably my second favorite, but the sumo one is I think that one's my favorite because it turned out like exactly like the boards too. Like in the England one, I think it was a lot of fun, but we had to cut like way more stuff for time for that one. So when I watch it, I'm like, oh man, I remember we had this joke and we didn't have room. So it's like I miss stuff that's like missing, but everybody else doesn't know it's there. But I do. And then probably for Teen Titans Go, my favorite episode is probably TV Night 6, because I wrote it and it has Pocket Robin. I like that one in Magic Man. Magic Man was fun coming up with like the magic library they go to and kind of all the creatures in the library, and Thorpagor who flies Raven to the library. That was fun. Then probably the toughest one is my favorite UniKitty episode. That one's tough because like all of my UniKitty episodes I love so much. Like there's not like a clear cut favorite. Probably the music videos episode where we, just because it was so different. I don't know if you guys have seen that episode, but it's kind of like they're doing Total Request Live, but like in UniKitty world. And it was the only episode we did where we didn't have a script to start with. We just were like, we're going to write 4 songs. And then we just had like a very basic outline for what like the show is in between each music video. And Edlin, Siobhan, and I all came up with, it's like, well, what if it's just they're counting down to the top song, but the best song is the number 4 song, and like, so they're like, and we're counting down to our top number 4 song, and they're like, well, isn't that counting up? And they're like, no, you want to be best because 4's the biggest. So you want to be 4. And the whole time, Rick, who's like, you know, they're, you know, the older character who's their guardian, is like, well, okay, I guess that doesn't really make sense to me, and it's just that for the whole episode. But we all wrote songs, and we all boarded to music, which was fun, and it turned out really funny. So that's probably my favorite UniKitty one. But all the UniKitty ones are so good. I wish more people. UniKitty's not on HBO Max or anything yet, so it's like I hope it comes on.
It's on Hulu. I can confirm it's on Hulu.
I know it's on Hulu. But I think the least amount of people have Hulu.
Right.
Like, so it's like, it's totally on Hulu, but it's like, I'm waiting for it to get, because I think once it gets on HBO Max, way more people are going to see it. And it's like, I think it'll take off because it's, you know, it's really funny. And Cartoon Network kind of aired it kind of early in the morning. Mm-hmm. So like younger kids saw it, but older kids I think would also really like it, but they're usually sleeping in like at that time. Mm-hmm. So I think they kind of didn't catch it, but now that it's streaming, I hope they will. But that episode was a lot of fun.
That just lets me know that we have to have a UniKitty marathon on our channel and talk about it, because I mean, for more people to get attraction to it, and we would love. I mean, it sounds interesting. I actually watched the trailer. I have not seen it, but it looks very cool and funny for me, and I love animation, so I would love to check it out. So we have a TV review show, and we'll definitely watch it and talk about it.
It's a fun show. It's a little misleading at first because, you know, it's like UniKitty from the Lego Movie, and she's pink and a unicorn, and there's rainbows and hearts and flowers everywhere, and there's a lot of pink, but it's not that type of show. Like that I think it is a little misleading because people are like, oh, this is just a cutesy show for little kids. It's like, no, we're doing a lot of very goofy cartoon antics, and it gets real weird on that show. So it's like, if you get past that one threshold, it's like, oh, this is super weird, and like, get ready to have a good time.
I love how chaotic it was. That was a chaotic show. I remember watching a couple of them. It was hilarious. It was
in hilarious. The best way. In the best way. Is there any other IP that you would like to tackle that you maybe haven't worked with before that you would love to do?
There's tons of stuff that I'd love to work on. It's actually interesting. In my whole career, I've never worked on something that wasn't an existing IP. Everything I've ever worked on already existed. Including the thing I'm working on now that it hasn't been announced yet, but it's like everything I've done was like a character that already existed, like Peabody and Sherman or UniKitty or Teen Titans, because that's everybody in DC. There's definitely. I could get real specific about this, but I can't, because I'm trying to get WB to let me do. So it's like some stuff I got to keep a secret, but it's like, yeah, there's definitely IPs that I want to work on for sure. I mean, as a creative and like as a, you know, in my career, the stuff that is always the most interesting to me and seems like it would be the most fun to adapt is I have little interest in adapting something that is beloved and everybody loves it so much. I would much rather adapt a thing that wasn't super popular and maybe was kind of shitty, and then like make it fun and cool and different. It's like, I'd much rather make a lame thing fun than try to, because it's like, well, if it was already good, then, you know, it's like, well, it was already good. You know, like I'd rather take a silly thing and do something new with it. So that's kind of the way I work, at least.
So you're definitely working on the Captain Planet reboot. That's what you just confirmed. You're definitely working on the Captain Planet reboot.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
That would be epic. I'm sorry. Like that would...
I'm not good enough at drawing people to be able to do the Captain Planet reboot. They all look like real human beings. I can't.
Maybe Captain Planet and the new set in this new age, it would be, you know, the Jellystone characters, or like characters like that. You're good at drawing, because I mean, we can switch it up a little bit. You know, it's about to be 2022. You know, we can, you know.
And the message of Captain Planet is, I don't know, more relevant than ever nowadays. So
yes, you can totally steal that idea and give me no credit, because I would love to see. I've been wanting a modern, quote unquote, like I would like for people, somebody. Hopefully you, because Jellystone and UniKitty, that resume is pretty, it's excellent. I want someone to do Captain Planet and just make it like, just be ridiculous with it. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the cartoon OKKO.
I was about to say Captain Planet was on OKKO. They had him there, yeah.
I want that to, like, obviously our climate change and the issues is no joke. Wink, wink. It's because it's not. We were like, this is a bad deal, but. Unfortunately, Ted Turner just had to make a concept so ludicrous. Like, he had to take something like environmental safety and just do it to such an nth degree that you cannot do Captain Planet and make it not funny. I mean,
old Captain Planet is high camp and
can't be.
Like, if somebody played into that, I think it would be a. You know, if you did it right, it would be like so good and such a hit, you know.
Or
right.
Go full silly. I think the guy The guy whose power was heart was very underutilized in the first.
Yep.
Yes.
If somebody rebooted it, they could give him something to do.
Yes.
Let him actually be the heart of the show.
Yeah.
And actually, give more love to everything that he's doing, or to the people of the world.
Until Captain Pollution shows up.
Shout out to Dr. Blight. Shout outs to Dr. Blight, even though she's one of the worst villains ever because she wants to actively cause climate change.
All the villains of Captain Planet, they're like, I want to make everything worse. It's like, how do you gain from this though?
Like, I'm gonna melt all of the ice caps and the world will be flooded. But how are you gonna make money? I don't know. But
why are you doing this? What do you stand to gain?
Right.
I feel like there's a political joke in here somewhere.
Exactly. Isn't that the true crime of pollution, that ultimately all of the big businesses and the industrialism will ultimately be for naught when the planet is flooded and we have to brave out into the final frontier to hopefully find a new planet to sustain human life? The planet is yours.
My God.
Aaron, you have a question?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have a billion questions because I'm an animation nut, but I'm going to try my best to not bombard you with like.
No, bombard, please. It's fun to answer questions. I can rapid fire answer.
Okay, well, one, how does it feel to be on like one of the greatest cartoons ever? That's one.
Okay, so I will say that when are you talking about, which one are you talking about?
Yes.
I think every show I am currently working on is the best cartoon ever made.
Exactly.
Like,
right.
I'm like, yep. And it's
a nice variety.
It's always, that's how I always feel when I'm in show, because like not everybody feels like that all the time, but I'm always working real hard, and I'm like, clearly this is the best one, and then it's like no, it's just because you're there working on it. Physically, it's like, oh boy, I can't wait for everybody to see this and go nuts. And Jellystone is the first one where like it actually seems like the internet like kind of noticed and was talking about it. I don't know if that's like because it was streaming first or what, but like that was, it's like, oh wow, memes, because like we didn't get a ton of memes on UniKitty. I think possibly because the audience was a little younger and maybe not on Twitter, because like they were probably, most of them were under 13 and probably not doing it. But I don't know, it feels good. You I don't know, you simultaneously feel like this is the best show ever, and then you're also, it's like, well, it is just a job. I need to temper my expectations, but it's that's a normal feeling to have when you like what you're working on. It's a privilege to be like, oh, I enjoy my job and I like working on this, even though it is work, but it's fun work.
That's what we need more in animation. And one of my other billion questions is, how does it feel to be a part of like this new 2D animation renaissance? Because like 2D animation is having this huge boom.
So I've always worked in television where 2D is the norm. So for me, I know like people talked about there was a 2D renaissance in movies because everybody was doing 3D so much. But 2D for me, when you're inside the renaissance, it just feels like you're doing what you're doing. For me, it just feels like business as usual, where it's like, all right, we're doing 2D, and with every show we learn more things that we know how to do, and and you can build upon that knowledge, which each subsequent episode in each subsequent show. So like the kind of stuff we're doing, like on Peabody and Sherman, we had, it was all 2D and it was animated in Flash, but then we also had, I'm blanking on Stefan's exact title, but Stefan Codell was he was like our digital animation supervisor or our digital effects it was some sort of animation supervisor where he basically went in and just his job was to, and I'm grossly simplifying it, but make everything look super fucking cool and like boost all the lights and do cool effects in After Effects and Well, then, and I had never heard of that like being a job on a show before. If you can look him up on Vimeo, he has a reel of like all the stuff he did. So he was able to take these, this 2D stuff and make it look, like 3D, and like it had like real, actual, like real world lighting on it, and like do all these very cool effects that, for in the 90s, like I don't think that was a job, where. And you can take After Effects and you can add shadows on things, so you can add so much more depth to what would normally just be a flat drawing. And so it's like we have so many more tools at our disposal, like not just like decade by decade, but like year by year and month by month. After Effects is so powerful. Even the people who made it don't know all the things it can do. They find new stuff all the time. And so it's like, the more software and the more software you're aware of, you can do some really cool looking stuff with, something that would take like a massive team of people in the past, like just like a dedicated crew can do now. So it's very cool.
That's awesome. I have a question. Considering that you've worked on a plethora of animated cartoons, do you have any particular voice actors that you just, that you've double dipped, like you've worked on multiple projects with, and who is your favorite voice actor?
Well, I can't.
Why?
These are people I work with. I don't have favorites. These are human beings that I have a professional relationship with. But in terms of double dipping, Tara Strong is Raven on Teen Titans Go, and she's UniKitty on UniKitty. So, other than
Tara
that,
number one,
legend. She's legend.
Yeah, and then the other big one is. So like she can do so many voices, and she's so nice. And but it's interesting on a lot of cartoon like on a lot of animated series, the voice acting crew is very small. So both on Teen Titans Go and on UniKitty, we had a crew of, so Teen Titans Go, it's like all the Titans have their, there's 5 voice actors. There's Scott, there's Hynden, there's Tara, there's Kari, and there's Greg. And anytime another voice pops up, unless it's like a super special guest, they're also doing those additional voices. So it's like that core crew of 5 handles 98% of the voices you hear on that show. And then on UniKitty, it was the same thing. So Tara was UniKitty, Grey Delisle was Puppycorn, Kate Micucci was Dr. Fox, Roger Craig Smith, who's usually Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes.
He was Crocodile and Richard. So he was 2 characters. And then Eric Bauza was Master Frown, and H. Michael Kerner was Brock. So that was 6. So, but it's like that core 6 did like all the voices on the show. And then like sometimes we had a voice, like a guest voice actor here and there, but they can do so many voices. I know that sounds so stupid to say, like, because it's like, they're a voice actor, but it's like you really can't believe all the voices that are coming out of them. And it's and kind of once you get to know them, you can kind of recognize their voice in other things where it's like, oh, I think this is Roger, because like Roger's also like the voice of K-Rock, like on the radio here in LA. So it's like, wait a second, that's Crocodile, but it's like him saying, what the big, call in for like this concert ticket giveaway is. But yeah, in terms of double dipping, I'd say the voice actor that I've worked with the most is Eric Bauza. So he's Master Frown on UniKitty, and he plays a very big part in the thing I'm working on now, which I can't totally talk about. But and then also when I was in college, so everybody has to do a senior thesis, when they're in college. But when you're an animation major, your senior thesis isn't a big paper; it's a film. So I had to make a short film, and he was a voice in my senior thesis like 10 years ago. So I've known him, I'd say my whole career, but technically even before my career. Like I knew him when I was still in school, and I worked with him then. So So I would say, I think it would be fair to say probably my favorite voice actor is Eric Bauza, because we've always been working together. Not to say that I don't absolutely love everybody else, but Eric is Eric's been there since day one. So, and he can literally do every voice. He's so talented, and he's so nice too. So that's. But every voice actor I've ever worked with has been so cool and nice and so good at what they do, and so excited about the final product. It's everybody's very fun to work with.
That's excellent. One, I'm definitely not going to edit your response and say, yes, Eric Bauza is my favorite voice actor. And two, speaking of which, you're now officially the second person we've interviewed that has spoken so highly of Eric Bauza. So
he's one of the Mel Blancs. He can do it all.
Nice.
That is a pretty high, and I believe it because just knowing that he's Bugs Bunny, and he's been Bugs Bunny for almost close to 15 years now. I know it's been 10.
Well, it's like he's been so it's interesting. It's depending on what show you're watching. Any one of it's a set of 5, a group of a handful of different men. Any one of them could be any of the Looney Tunes at any given time. It's like some of them. So it's like in the Looney Tunes shorts on HBO Max, there's one set. In Space Jam, it was slightly different. And in other things, it's slightly. So it's Eric's he's been Daffy, he's been Bugs, he's been Tweety. He's always Marvin the Martian. That one is that one's across the board. If it's Marvin the Martian, I think it's always him. But he can do all the voices. So it's but they all kind of take turns and swap around depending on availability and what's going on. Because it's I think he's he's Bugs in the shorts, but I think someone else is Bugs in the new Space Jam. I think. But then but I think he is Daffy and he is Tweety and he is Marvin.
Man, I think it's dope that they have that relationship and that companionship that they can, be able to rotate like that, and they all have that ability to play all those characters like that, and we not know. We all probably think it's the same person, but it's that rotation. I think that is just dope and genius, and kudos to all of them for that.
It's super cool. They also, as far as I know, seem to be very non-competitive about it, which.
Right.
If that was me and I was usually the voice of a character and they gave it to somebody else for another thing, I'd be so mad. I'd be so pissed. But they're all nope, that's just how it is. I'm wow, that's very big of you. I would have a problem with that.
Much like how I stole first place from Aaron that one time in Mario Kart.
Seriously, we're gonna bring it up here. She has nothing to do with Mario Kart. Do not try to get somebody else on your bandwagon.
What you mean? I'm a one-man bandwagon.
Mario Kart, right? It's all.
I have a question for anyone who's watching that's trying to build up their career in animation. What advice would you give them?
Well, I give the same information or the same advice to a lot of people where it's one, just work really hard, be nice. My senior thesis, which I mentioned earlier, was essentially my business card coming out of school that I used to get jobs. So, and I made sure that I made the absolute best product that I could make with the abilities and technology I had. And it was a tough year and a half while I was making it. I pulled a lot of all-nighters, but that not because it was necessary to do, but because I didn't manage my time well. I don't recommend pulling all-nighters, but I did because I messed up. But it was a lot of work, but it absolutely paid off. So it was a lot of it's just working hard and just caring about what you do. If you're working on a personal project and you're kind of I'm not having fun, I would say don't give up, but be what changes do I need to make to this so that I am having fun, so that I do finish it. So it's you're always allowed to change something and adapt it to your needs to make it more interesting, more entertaining, more exciting to want to work on. So that just do if you're someone who doesn't like drawing hands and it's very discouraging to draw hands, design the characters you're working with, design them so that they don't have human hands. Give them 2 fingers instead of 5, or just give them a tentacle or something. Like, it's, if you don't like drawing people walking, do something where everybody's underwater, or everybody's floating, or it's characters that don't have feet. So it's like, it's just like you can build it. It's like, if there's something you don't want to do, like, you just got to be real smart about, or if it's something that you don't think you're gonna have time to do. So it's like, my senior thesis is, I think, 7 minutes long, 7 or 8 minutes, and it has a lot of dialogue in it. And all through the process, everybody's like, this is a lot of dialogue. How are you gonna be able to? This is a ton of work. How are you gonna be able to do this? And I always wanted a talk heavy piece because I like telling jokes, and all this. And I had a lot of jokes I wanted the characters to say and do. And so I'm like, well, how do I facilitate being able to have my thesis be as long as I want it to be, to tell the story and not burn myself animating? Well, it in the thesis, it's they all get stuck on a couch and they can't leave the couch. So I've now eliminated walking from like 90% of the film. I don't have to show a lot of walking. So and by doing that, I was able to build in the time to work on the other stuff, because it's like, okay, I have in the story made it make sense that they're just kind of sitting in one place, and that makes it easier for me to animate. So that's a big recommendation for me, is just like, you don't have to do things the hard way unless you really want to. You can absolutely tailor what you're doing to your own strengths or your own interests to make it, easier and more fun to complete, for sure. Cool. Because the most important thing is you just got to get something done.
That's excellent. That's I think that's what a lot of. Oh yeah, because I even though I'm not an animator, that work ethic, the mindset behind it, that's something that I definitely need to hear, because I sometimes catch myself burning the midnight oil on projects that I make, and sometimes I was like, well, cute, it's okay to try to make things easier on you and not just try to go full speed ahead, just not gas on a train, but you pull the lever to make it go. So thank you for that advice, and I hope everybody
that really inspired even me for what I want to do. That was very inspiring, because I can apply that to what I'm doing in my life. So I appreciate you for saying it to us and our viewers.
Yeah, it's you can apply that to pretty much anything. Obviously, the metaphors I come up with are all going to be cartoon related, because that's what I know. But it's like, it's like you don't have to make it hard on yourself. If you're smart about it, you can always find like some sort of shortcut. And it's not cheating to find a shortcut. It's smart. You found a shortcut. That's work. So. And when a lot of people are starting to learn how to animate, and this is with this also applies to any discipline or anything, but when I was going to school to study animation, a lot of people, the first thing you learn kind of when you're pursuing like an art or a craft is the first thing you get is like, you can look at something and you can tell that something is wrong. And it's like, something's up here, like when you're critiquing a work, but you don't necessarily know what it is yet. You're like, something's wrong, something's up. And then kind of the next thing you learn is to recognize what it is that is making a thing like not work, So it's like, oh, the timing's weird there. Oh, the physics seem weird. Something's up. Or, like it, like the scene is cutting too soon, or something like that. Then the next thing you have to learn is, if I were to do this myself, and I saw this problem, how would I fix it? Because you can recognize a problem and not know how to fix it. So the next thing is, what do I have to learn to like avoid this in the future? So it's like, knowing the bouncing ball, exercise for physics. But I would say the last thing you need to learn that is the most important, and I would say the biggest boon, like to someone who works in the industry, is the last thing you need to learn is, okay, if something is wrong, is it important enough for me to actually have to fix it? Because sometimes something's wrong, but it doesn't matter, and you don't have to fix it, and there's only so many hours in a day. So it's like also learning, it's like, what of these things that are wrong, what deserves my attention and what isn't really a big deal? Because some people will be like, oh, they'll be watching cartoons and there's one like goofy thing, like that one meme that's, all right, not a meme, but it's like going around where it's the from that show Recess on Disney, where that one character who was like the king of Recess, like he had a jersey and like
King Bob.
the numbers the numbers red in one shot, and then they cut to the next shot and the numbers blue. And like people are like, oh, what were these Disney animators thinking? Like these idiots who didn't pay any attention. And it's like, well, it's like, okay, like that show is animated overseas, and like that just means like it's like a small mistake was made, and the jersey like changes color for one shot. And it's like, yeah, it's a goofy mistake and it's a little immersion breaking, but like, is it worth sending it all the way back, to the studio to animate? And because most people who are watching a show just care if they enjoyed watching the show, not if they won't be like, oh, everything wasn't exactly perfect, you're a failure. It's like, no, it's it's like the SATs. You don't have to. You can still get a perfect score on the SATs and got a handful of questions wrong. Like you just have to do good enough, to meet that thing. And it's like once you've made. Because you can get an 800 on the SATs and still, it's a perfect score, but it doesn't mean that you can still have gotten questions wrong or have skipped some questions, but you still got an 800 on like that one section. So it's like, if you get there, everything above that is like a bonus, but like in order to be truly great, you really only have to be good enough. And then it's just like, what things are you going to put the extra effort in on, and what things are you going to get let slide? Because, it's TV is, there's more room for it in movies and features, but like for television, like we got to go. Like our schedule is so fast, and, it's not worth burning out your crew for a thing that's so tiny and so goofy. So it's like, it's learning what things are important to fix and what things don't really matter, because also most audience members won't even notice. Like it's you noticed because you were working with it for so long, but everybody else is just really like, oh, cool, an episode, I'm excited to watch. And then they watch and they're like, I loved it. So they don't care that you didn't catch every single thing that you wanted to catch,
Right. So all you nitpickers out there,
yeah,
y'all need to recognize, because these people, they work hard and they ain't got time to be sending Recess back or UniKitty back or Dragon Ball back or Teen Titans Go back or any of these animations back because Blossom's skirt is a little bit more fuchsia than red. Y'all better.
I would say like, it's like if you get like a shot back and like straight up the wrong voice is coming out of the wrong character who's talking, you got to fix that ASAP. But if it's like a little color issue or something, it's all like, oh, that's one thing I like to do is people will ask me questions about like things that aired where like there's things that don't make sense. Like there's one that there's one episode of UniKitty where they're all cheerleading. And we would have like a base kind of crowd model that we could put in and jiggle. That way we didn't have to draw a new crowd every time there was a crowd somewhere. And it was all simplified versions of like a lot of the incidental characters we designed. And they would go in and they would jiggle to show that they were a crowd and they would work. But one of the pieces in the crowd was one of our characters is named Phoebe, and she's like part flower, part bee. And she was part of this base crowd model that would jiggle and stuff. But Phoebe was like a character in the episode that was cheerleading on the field. So it was like she was on the field and also she was in the crowd cheering. And it's like, but it's like, I'm not going to make them go back and change it. So I'm like, and so like people were like, and also it was like we copied and pasted the crowd a couple times. So it's like, there were 4 Phoebes in the crowd, and there was also a Phoebe on the field, like jiggling. And people were, and somebody like on Twitter, somebody was like, "What's going on here? There's 2 Phoebes." I'm like, "Oh, those are Phoebe's siblings. That's Phi A, Phi C, and Fifi." Like it's like oh, nice. Sister. It's like instead of like saying it's a mistake, I'm just like, it's like, oh, nice catch. Cool that you found this Easter egg that we put in on purpose. Yeah. Those are new characters. So it's like whenever you make a mistake, it's like also like Master Friend and Brock's bathroom had like a different layout in 2 different episodes. They're like, well, the toilet's over here in this episode, but there's a toilet over here in this episode. And I'm like, they have 2 toilets, so they can go to the bathroom.
Like, don't you live in a house? You don't know there are 2 toilets?
To me,
like,
that's
like stuff like that. It's like, man, we don't have time to check this. It's not worth our time to check. We have stories to tell, but it's like, just explain it away with like some creative fun. I'm not saying that I made these things up. These examples I both gave are times where people thought it was a mistake, and you're wrong. I thought about it the whole time. There's a crowd scene in Jellystone where like it's the crowd, but it's a very wide shot, so the crowd's really tiny in frame because we're at a distance. And one of the characters they used in the crowd was Grape Ape, who is. But it's like Grape Ape is the size of everybody else, but Grape Ape's like, I don't know, 5 stories tall. And so everybody's like, there's a tiny Grape Ape here. It's like, that's his daughter? That's a different character. That's not Grape Ape. That's not the Grape Ape.
That's Raisin Chimp. That's Raisin Chimp.
Yeah. Now we have lore. Now we got some lore. There you go.
I was gonna say some lore.
Like, if you look for her because she's different, she's in there in that one episode. So it's also sometimes some goofy comes back and it's like, oh, I know it's weird and it's a mistake, but it is more fun this way that it came back this way. So it's like, oh no, we did that on purpose. This is exactly what we were trying to do. Nice catch. I see you are a fan.
It gives me that y'all just open up a multiverse in your animation world. That's what it's telling me, especially with all the 4 Phoebes. So Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, Earth 4. That's what it's giving me.
Yeah, they all visited into the Phoebeverse. They all.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm here for it.
I'm glad you made that reference because I have a question. So here at MulDiversity, we have all collectively spoken about this and come to the same conclusion. And we would like to ask our guests periodically when the topic comes up, their feelings on it to see if they understand, the correct answer versus if they need to be educated on it. And so what are your feelings about Into the Spider-Verse being an absolute Christmas movie?
Oh my God.
It's a Christmas movie.
Yes, it's a Christmas movie. It's absolutely a Christmas movie.
Well, there is snow in it, right? Like it does take place during winter.
Yes, and there's
the last time I saw it was in the theater, so I have to remember all the things. But I would say, well, so I can tell you as an insider, actually, it wasn't originally a Christmas movie, but then the Romans had it line up with the Sol Invictus Festival to make it a Christmas movie.
There we go.
To appease the populace.
So it is a Christmas movie, indubitably.
I'd say any movie that has snow in it, and no, that's it. Any movie that has snow in it. If it has snow, or if it takes place on Christmas, it's a Christmas. So Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Yes.
And I don't remember. Like I just remember. Like I remember all the cool stuff. I remember. I don't remember specific. But if there's snow in it, I would argue yes. Like my favorite thing in Die Hard is because Die Hard takes place in L.A. There wouldn't be snow, but when the building blows up at the end. There's a bunch of like printer paper raining down from the sky, and I'm like,
yes,
that's
iconic.
Yeah, so I'm so glad that you have come around to the
next. I'm sorry you had to even deal with that. Is it not more fun if it's a Christmas movie? Does it not give you an additional incentive to watch? If it is a Christmas movie? You can hang a couple likes if it ain't no Christmas song.
I think you only need the absolute most tenuous connection to any holiday for a movie or a property to be a property relating to that holiday.
See, and that's all I've been saying. That's all I was been trying to get across. That's all I've been trying to look here.
Also, speaking of Die Hard and Christmas is coming up.
Yes.
And also just the holidays in general, if you don't celebrate Christmas, but the Christmas/holiday season, the wintertime season, the time of all the good holidays, is coming up. And we have, one of the UniKitty episodes I directed was the Christmas episode of UniKitty, I would say holiday episode, but they do flat out say Christmas and Santa shows up. But we do a Die Hard episode, like we parodied Die Hard in the UniKitty Christmas episode, and it's the season to watch. So I'd say that's
I know what episode I'm watching as soon as we get done.
It's Die Hard, and we did our research, and we crammed in. We got it as Die Hard as we were allowed to do, because WB doesn't own Die Hard. So we have a part where UniKitty is crawling through a vent. And the legal department at WB said she can crawl through a vent, but she can't crawl straight to camera. I'm like, Die Hard did that. I'm like, they don't own angles inside vents. And they're like, we're too scared to fight it. So she crawls at a slight 3/4 angle. And so it's all full of stuff like that. So as if you love Die Hard and you like the holidays and Christmas, well, UniKitty has your back.
I'm sorry.
Welcome to, I can imagine Tara going, "Welcome to the party, pal. Have a few drinks. Come to UniKitty Castle. It'll be fun. Have a few laughs."
You guys would like it a lot. I recommend it.
Yeah, I'm definitely about to binge watch that and get me some laughs out of that, because like I said, I saw the trailer and I'm intrigued by it, and just hearing you talk about it has me really intrigued to actually sit down, take some time and watch it, because Jellystone, classic already a classic.
Yes.
I do have one more question for you.
If you're new to Jellystone, there's only 12 episodes. Go to just watch all, or I would say watch my episodes first. But UniKitty, and then Teen Titans Go, there's so many. Pick a DC character, like just the Teen Titans Go wiki is very comprehensive. The people who are doing that the Teen Titans. We on the crew will look up on the Teen Titans Go fan wiki to be like, what episode did this character appear in, so that we know what episode folder in to look for the models. So like we use that, but there'll also be like Raven appears unhooded for the 133rd time in this episode. I'm like, ooh, someone was really paying attention to this. But then, so it's like, I would look at it's like, if you have specific characters you'd like, I'd say check that out and look for, because they've got so many of the DC characters in there. So I would say look that up. UniKitty, if you're looking for episodes to watch, I'd say the music videos episode is great. There's 104 UniKitty episodes. So the music videos episode is very good. The Christmas episode is fantastic. We did a crossover with Lego Batman. That's a really good one that I think people would really, really like.
Nice.
So it's all just UniKitty and Batman all the time. And we got the real voice of Lego Batman in
Will Arnett.
Yeah, Will Arnett's in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Trying to like those are three big hits. Those ones are really good. And then, but really, you can't with any of the UniKitty episodes, you can't go wrong. But those of mine that I worked on, I'm like, oh, if you were trying to like get somebody sucked into the show, those are the three I would pick right away. But they're all good. Just of those, those are probably those ones are all like specials. So like they got like their own special commercials.
Nice.
Mike, you had one question, and then we'll just
wrap it up. Yeah, I got you. I just want to know: is there anything that you have not tapped into that you would like to tap into, as far as like a genre or theme?
I love just doing genre work. Like, so it's like, I like when it's like, this episode is a parody of this genre.
Right.
So it's like, and like, I like getting real specific. So on UniKitty, we had an episode called Kaiju Kitty, where it was all, we talked about this on the Cashcast podcast.
Yes.
But it was like all Power Rangers, like big robot, Voltron stuff. And that was a lot of fun, because that's a genre I really like. But it's like, horror is fun. you know, like action is fun. Specifically, I like kung fu stuff. I think it would be fun to be able to do. I really like kind of like 70s genre movies and stuff. So I like trying to work in, you know, as many kind of like tie-ins back to old stuff I've seen as much as I can. But yeah, I'm kind of happy to work in any genre because I like trying to see, you know, how close we can get it to that genre. It's so yeah, it's like anytime it's like this episode is a genre piece, I'm like, I'm in. I don't care what the genre is, like period piece. Melodrama courtroom. Oh, that's another UniKitty episode that's really good. Is they all go to court. It's called Kitty Court. That's Law and Order. It's usually courtroom episodes are famously you want to avoid them in cartoons because they're generally very boring. And I think this is a courtroom episode that is not boring. That everybody really likes. So. That's another big wreck for me. But again, they're all good. Ones that I did and ones that I didn't do. UniKitty is like across the board, so solid. You can't go wrong, and there's 104.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I like any genre. They're so fun. It's the thing that I don't like doing where it's like it's no genre. The genre of this episode is generic. I'm like, okay. Yeah. But it's like I just like the weirder you can get an episode and like the more like the goofier of a reference you can get into it, or the more, you know, the deeper the cut, or the more esoteric is always so fun. My director Greg and I on Peabody and Sherman would always try to think of like what's the weirdest thing we could reference for, you know, every episode of Peabody and Sherman. So we would there was an episode where they got to climb the Matterhorn with the first woman to climb the Matterhorn. And so we watched like a bunch of like, I think I'm trying to remember if it was the Sylvester Stallone's one, but it was different, but it was like a rock climbing movie. So it's
Cliffhanger. Cliffhanger?
I don't think it was Cliffhanger because Cliffhanger is more popular. Like Cliffhanger has a happy end. The movie we watched had a very 70s ending where it's like, I guess corporations are always going to win. And like, the movie just ended. I don't think Cliffhanger ends like that. But like so it's like we were always just watching goofy stuff where it's all like, and it's not like, let's watch something that we know kids would love. It's like, let's watch something that we think is going to be really weird and might have info that we can use and adapt to our needs to, you know, and that way we know we're not going to be looking at something that people reference all the time that's super overused. So it's like, I don't know, when you're looking for inspiration somewhere, like the weirder the better. And, you know, super heavy genre pieces are a good place to look, in my opinion.
So what I'm hearing is Jellystone episode that parodies Zardoz. That's what I hear.
I love Zardoz. Well, I love the idea of Zardoz.
Right.
The movie is a slog. Right. It's 3 hours long. But I'm glad, like, it's like you watch it and you're like, I'm glad I watched it. I remember all the weird stuff. But then it's like you remember there's like 20 minutes of nothing in between each weird thing. Yeah, Zardoz is great. One of my podcasts that I listen to a lot and I think has made me a much better artist is I watch. Do you guys know How Did This Get Made? Or they watch?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think you can learn more from watching a bad movie than you can, like, or just as much from watching a bad movie as you can from watching a good movie. Because it's like a good movie is like, wow, they did all that and it was really cool. I'm done. Like, but when you watch a bad movie, it's all like, I watched that. I had a good time. It didn't make a lot of sense.
So
if I was to make this, what would I have done different? And then that gets you thinking. It's like, what should they have done to make it make sense? You know, and
so what I'm hearing is Jellystone episode based off of The Room coming in 2022.
I really tried to pitch him an episode that was all, and I'm not saying this is a bad movie. This was one of my favorite movies of I think 2018 when it came out. But I pitched an episode where I was trying to stealthily do Midsummer
Oh my god!
Throughout an episode, but 2 other people pitched an episode that was very similar at the same time, and they're all like, and then all 3 episodes, they were like, all 3 episodes had to take place outside of Jellystone, and they're like, the show is called Jellystone. We do not want episodes that take place outside of the city. I'm like, that is fair. But no, I was able to. I was like, I manufactured all these things where I didn't want to tell them that I was going to do Midsummer because I had a feeling Carl would say no. So I was like building in story points and then just not saying that they were Midsummer, and just everybody thought they were funny.
I need it.
So they were all going to go to a. There was a Hanna-Barbera show that nobody ever saw or liked called These Are the Days, which was all people living in colonial America and like being boring. And but we got the rights. We were authorized to use it if we wanted. And I wanted them to go visit the kids to all go visit on a field trip, and then it turned into Midsummer. Is like what I wanted. They're like, oh, they don't like that the kids are not following the colonial rules.
Oh man!
And I was gonna have Yogi be a chaperone on that trip, and we were going to. And I wanted like Augie to be like, I wish we were going someplace cooler, like the aquarium or something. I want to go see my favorite fish, the bluefin chichlid, And then later, she's like, oh man, I wish we could have gone to the aquarium. I want to see it. And then Yogi's like, oh, that's my favorite fish too. Quick, hide in my mouth like that. The babies of that fish, and then Augie would be inside Yogi, and it's like the bear suit.
Oh my god! Oh my god! That sounds amazing.
And it was like I'm like, yeah, it's a lot of hoops to jump through, but
oh god!
But Carl said no because of I don't know cowardice and and also extreme cost and inability to fit into 11 minutes. But
God, let's just say
so
that's maybe
another. And I'm not even going to say everything I was going to think of doing, because what if the opportunity comes up too? If I am able to do that in the future, it probably won't be on Jellystone, so I'd have to come up with a different way to do it. But it's like, it's just like oh, what's a thing I really like that we can sneak in to something, and not like to be tricky and subversive, but just to be like, I think it would be funny, and I think people would enjoy it.
So just before we wrap it up, I just a little bit behind the scenes. So Aaron has just sent us a visual aid of the characters from These Are the Days, and if y'all would have done them in this animation style for that episode, that would have killed. I'm mad. Release the Midsummer cut of Jellystone.
Please.
Yeah, so the fun thing about Jellystone is because all the characters are characters that already exist. The process on Jellystone is if we want a character on the show. So this is like with Cats Do Dance with Hey, It's the King, which is a show that everybody's like, wow, I can't believe you remembered it. I'm like, we didn't remember it because we didn't know it existed. We were goofing off. Like, we can go into the WB archives and just like see what we have, and because all the Hanna-Barbera stuff is there. So at lunchtime we would just look through and look for just like shows we hadn't heard of, and we saw that one, and the second I saw him, I'm like, ooh, I can do something with these guys. I think these guys are real funny. And and all those characters are boys on that show. So it was, we changed the way some of them looked too. Like, they were all the exact same size and like kind of silhouette. So it's like, we kind of varied up. We made some of them little and some of them big, but it's like, oh, these would be fun characters to work with. And I started writing, and I think a lot of people on the show, when we were watching the shows in the archives, everybody like caught one thing and they're like, ooh, I like them. I don't know who that is, because a lot of people on the crew are in their mid-20s, and like they're like Carl grew up with these characters, but the crew on the whole was very young. I would say I'm 32 and I was the oldest director. Granted, not by a lot, by like half a year. But and then at the time I was 30, when we were working on them. So it's like I didn't grow up with these cartoons. And not to mention, like, Hanna-Barbera, everybody's like, I hope they didn't stay true to the characters in their original forms. I'm like, the characters in their original forms were straight up copies of other things that already existed. That was the Hanna-Barbera way.
Right.
Like 80%.
So many shows. But we could, if we found something that we liked in the archives, what we would do was we would make a list of like things where it's like that week I would talk to my supervising director, Ian Westlook, and we'd be like, or I'd send it to production and be like, can we send this name to legal in the next batch to see if we are authorized to use these characters, and if we are authorized, like, what are we allowed to use? And they would say yes or no, because like sometimes there were a few rare cases where it was a Hanna-Barbera character, but another company owns them. So like we don't own every single one. So we would have to check some of the more obscure ones to see, like, are we authorized to use them? And most of the time the answer was yes, but sometimes it was no. Or it was like with Hey It's the King, it was yes, you're allowed to use the characters, but Hey It's the King was a Happy Days like ripoff, and they were like, you can use the characters, but you can't do Happy Days. I'm like, great, because I wasn't. But don't do the one thing that made him lame. I'm like, okay, cool. I won't do that. Like there was a show on. People credit it as being like the very first animated sitcom, depending on it. But Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, and it's literally just it. Nothing about it, from what I've seen, it's like there's no reason it needed to be animated. Like it was literally just like a sitcom and a cartoon, but they didn't do things. It's like, people always say like, oh, King of the Hill didn't need to be animated because like they were just hanging out. But it's like, well, they did that whole adventure with that truck in the snow with all that amazing animation. And it's like, how expensive that would have been to do live action. Like you couldn't do that. So like, actually like, so that is, but like Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, like they didn't really do that, but it had a very long, it has a very iconic, like theme song intro where they're just basically saying like, well, wait till your father gets home, and they just keep repeating it. I wanted for an episode to do the whole intro to Wait Till Your Father Gets Home. And then when the door opens, it's like Jabberjaw, and she's like, wait, this isn't my house. And then the whole episode was like Jabberjaw needs glasses or something. And I'm like, I would love to do this. And they were all like, the theme song, like, they're like, oh, no, it would have cost like $1 million for us. Or like, do you have $70,000 to pay for the rights to the song? And I'm like, no. Like, so it's like sometimes it would be like, we could use the characters, but not the theme song, or the characters, but not the thing they were based off of, so it's like conditional usage for it to be legally okay. But that's, we tried to get in as many like weird shows people had never heard of as we could. And are they going to look like what they were in the old show? No. We were using them to suit our needs because we're powerful and we can.
Yes.
And, that's
all right. Okay.
But yeah, but it was cool, and it was fun to be able to just be like, I need a character, and then just you get to dive into a library to find somebody, and it's like, ooh, I can maybe use this, and it was super.
So
fun.
that means I can expect Wonder Wheel in Jellystone fairly soon.
I don't know who that is. That's how big the Hanna-Barbera library is.
Awesome.
Wonder Wheel.
Oh, that's gonna be hilarious.
Right.
Is that like Speed Buggy?
Yeah, actually, to show how deep Boomerang ingrained I was growing up, there was Wonder Wheel, which is essentially this nerd who had a bike that made him a superhero.
Okay.
Then you had
the bike. Okay, that makes sense.
And then you had a kid that just straight up turned into a convertible.
Yeah.
Well, that's Turbo Teen.
Yeah, Turbo Teen. So he might, hopefully, since you know that, he might show up in Jellystone as some weird. I'm not gonna go there.
That's interesting because on Teen Titans Go they just flat out parodied Turbo Teen. So like for like a 2-episode arc. And because they did that, they might be like legally. So that was the other thing is there were some characters we were legally allowed to use, but WB didn't want us to because they're all like, there's too much overlap with another thing. So like, because I'm not saying that this is the case because I don't know if anybody tried to use Turbo Teen, but like for season 1, but sometimes that would be a thing where it's like you're legally allowed to use it, but another show is actually going to use these characters very soon. So the company says, wait, because it's too much of an overlap too soon. It's like, oh, okay. It's like it messes up our plan. And like and it's like sometimes they don't like having like they don't like having DC and Looney Tunes mix unless it's a very specific, because it's like much like how Babe Ruth would sign anything, but he wouldn't sign a bat unless it was a very specific scenario to make the bats very valuable. I think that was Babe Ruth. It might have been somebody else, but WB doesn't want to just do crossovers whenever they can. They want to share or save those for very specific special opportunities when it'll make the most impact. So it's like if you do it all the time, it's not as special. So they'll be like, no, this isn't a special enough scenario for this. Or it's like, oh, we're saving this for later, like for so-and-so's anniversary. So yeah, sometimes we would be allowed to we'd be allowed to use somebody, but then WB's like, no. Like it's like we weren't supposed to do Scooby-Doo characters because they're like, we already do Scooby-Doo as its own show, so they shouldn't be in Jellystone. Scooby-Doo is covered. Jellystone is for the people who are not on Scooby-Doo, and it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Even though I could go for another Jabberjaw Scooby-Doo crossover, I could really go for that. But
Jabberjaw Scooby-Doo, there's totally this. It's like, what if Scooby-Doo was underwater?
Right.
Jabberjaw, like it's like there's a same show,
literally.
And that's what makes it awesome, because it's the same thing but twice. It's like having 2 Big Macs. You can eat them both.
I can't get over Jabberjaw doing "Wait Till Your Father Gets Home." That
would be hilarious.
Like genetic.
Wait, I was going to say, but far too costly. So it's like, also that theme song's like, I don't know, 2 minutes long, so it would have like taken up like a huge chunk of the episode.
I would argue that would have made it even funnier. It
would have been very funny, but yeah, it's sometimes when stuff's real weird, it's a bit of a tougher sell to the studio, because it's like we gotta get WB on board, but then HBO Max, even though we're the same family of companies, they are a different company. So like both have to sign off and want to. So it's like we get notes from WB and notes from HBO Max. So we gotta fit both molds, follow all the rules.
Well, I'm gonna push and I'm gonna petition and I'm gonna sign as much as I can and make some edits, but I really need that Halloween special of Jellystone takes Midsummer on. Like I need it. Like that thing gonna be so funny to me because all I can think about is certain parts when they were at the plays and things were moving, and I just can't wait to see how the cast of Jellystone would handle it. Like I think it would be awesome.
And if folks get mad, you can just say 4 black folks said that they thought it was a good idea and just pass the buck on.
Oh my God.
The people demand it.
Yeah,
we black. I mean, like
the audience is clamoring for, it's like we got to give the people what they want.
Yeah, exactly. I've always said that.
Well, that's the other thing is it's like if it's a lot of times studios are like, we don't know if people want to watch this, and it's like, oh, if people were like really loud on Twitter about like, I would like to see this, and this, they'd be like, ooh, because they love algorithms. Mm-hmm. So the more if everybody, you just have to get like one exec to like see that you want something, and then they'll get that idea, and then they'll think they thought of it themselves. But they'll be like, "Oh, we got to do this," and it's like, "Great, now we can kind of get the ball rolling and do this thing."
This is amazing. This has been really amazing.
Oh
yeah. This has been an amazing experience, but unfortunately, we got to call it. Unfortunately, but I will say this though.
I'd be happy to come back anytime.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to ask that. I was trying to figure out a way to sound as awkward as possible when asking it. But yes, That is exactly as my brother slinks in as we're still recording live on here. What's up?
I extended my hand in friendship.
She works for Warner Brothers, not Disney, and Sony. So I don't know if that's legalities or anything.
I worked at DreamWorks and I work at WB. Like that's
exactly. See, so
oh my god.
I mean, it's not an episode of MulDiversity if Quentin doesn't crash it.
No loyalty to DreamWorks though. They kind of did me dirty with my salary, so I
get them out of here. See, that's why the Boss Baby 2, who needed it? So get out of here with that.
Well, I was going to say not necessarily because it was DreamWorks, but that's another thing is where our guild negotiations are next month. They pick up again, and right now the minimums that every single person who does any job in cartoons, we all are part of the Animation Guild, which is our union, which allows us to like have healthcare and get fair wages to make all the cartoons that everybody loves so much. And we're trying to negotiate right now when the minimums that we're supposed to be paid for things airing on television or in a movie theater are not the same as the minimums that we get paid for streaming. The streaming minimums are lower, and it's insane because we're doing the exact same work. So why are they paying us less for a thing where our stuff is going to air more? So it's a big thing. Is everybody who does streaming, and Peabody and Sherman was on Netflix that was streaming, so it was like they're allowed to pay us less for the exact same work, which is insane. So it's like that's a thing that everybody would like fixed, and that's not just animate. I mean, the Animation Guild negotiations are coming up, but across the board, everybody who works on TV shows and movies and all the things that everybody loves so much deserve to be paid a living wage and live comfortably and not have their wages fixed at Catmull. So, like, like the public support, and if you see anything, everybody talking about wages and guild negotiations, if you want, share, spread it around.
Of course,
anything that is good for the workers of one industry is good for another. Anybody who's on strike, support them. Don't eat
Kellogg's.
I was going to say Kellogg's.
Right.
We see what you're doing, Kellogg's, and I know your cereal is all mid-tier, but like you can.
Ooh, shots fired! Shots fired.
Maybe if you paid your workers better, you could have good. It's like.
Okay.
Nobody's missing out not having Kellogg's, so
that's true.
It costs me nothing to boycott your products. I'm not missing out on anything.
Right.
Perhaps you could pay your workers fair, and also everybody who employs anybody anywhere.
We definitely stand with everybody in the animation, in the world of animation, from voice actors to directors, storyboard artists, writers, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Personally, we've done recently, about 2 months ago, we did a month dedicated to our favorite animation movies, cartoons, etc. So that's absolutely something that resonates with us, and you have our full support with that.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
I was going to say animation, especially. We were one of the only industries that was able to remain working during the pandemic, producing stuff that people could enjoy. We just grabbed our computers and we went home and we went back to work, and I'm still at home. We still, so it's like we were able to keep a lot of productions and shows afloat just with the skills we have that other people don't have. And, when there was a big boom, and we should be paid for, the service we're providing in a way that's comparable to, what other people get paid for the same work somewhere else. So and that shouldn't be a political statement. That should just be normal. So that's kind of something for people to think about when they're watching something they like. It's like, ooh, I wonder if the people who made this got paid fair.
That's for true.
Facts.
Yep.
So, because it's fun doesn't mean it's not a job.
Right.
That you need to have.
Right. Like, you don't want to end up like me. You don't want to end up like me, audience.
Oh my god!
And I don't mean this. I just mean my general life that is so horrible that I won't even regale you guys. It's so, and I don't mean my home life. I mean my
Q, are you in a union?
I wish that was a union.
Well, there you go. See, so this is why unions are so great, and you should support unions.
Absolutely. Like,
unions
Lord,
are good.
if man, I wish we had the need.
I don't.
My knees are kicking my butt for taking that job with no union, but hey, at least that experience, and then this is, to be real for a second, that job is what galvanized me to just make a career out of this, trying to make a career out of this, speak affirmatively, make a career out of this, and just, and go there and make sure I don't have to work on the dock for 6 hours lifting boxes and doing other things. I'm trying. Hopefully my goal is to make it so Mike doesn't have to ever go back on a roof to fix the AC on his thing. I'm trying to ensure that I am.
And on that note, it's
the end of the year. I had to throw it back.
Derail everything. I just build time right now.
But he know what he said, and
but absolutely though. In all seriousness, please support the many, and please, like, unions are awesome. People deserve to be paid well and be safe on their jobs, whether it's at Amazon, whether that's working in cereal, whether that's working animation. This is really, really serious. And please, we will have the description of the union for animators in the video once everything is over with. And definitely, like, we will be supporting this a lot moving forward, making noise as we should. So yes.
Yes.
So yes, one more time, Miss. Oh God, and I've just been talking for so much that I almost messed up the name, and I literally had a name that made it. So I'm gonna try, and I apologize.
Pressure's on.
Careen.
Yeah, you got it right.
There you go.
That's my name.
Yes. So please let them know who you is, where you bees, and what they can expect to find you in the near future.
So I'm on Twitter. If you just look up Careen Ingle on Twitter, you'll find me. Really, if you Google my name, I'm the only person who has this name, so I'm easy to find. But yeah, Twitter is where I'm the most active. I'm on Instagram too, but I don't post as regularly. And what I am posting is the same stuff I'm posting on Twitter. And then it's if you're looking for me, Twitter. That's where you're gonna get the most. And then I also have a Tumblr just because I like that Tumblr doesn't compress images the same. I know it's not, but like if you're looking for just artwork and videos and no extra commentary, I like Tumblr is just kind of like a depository for all the work that I put on Twitter without retweets or anything. But really, if you're looking for me, just look up my name and you'll find stuff. But Twitter's the number one.
Absolutely. And of course, we have been MulDiversity proper. You always, you guys know where to find us at this point, even though we're going to start surprising y'all on days that y'all don't expect us. You can expect Mike and Avia doing their Titan season 4 wrap up without me.
We did it already, Q. We did it already.
It's already done, edited, and filmed, dropping next week.
You can expect me and Aaron to talk about our favorite action figures on Figureheads. A new episode should be dropping fairly soon.
They want to invite me so I can open up this.
You said you can do the next one. Why are you putting on a show? Because we got company. Why are you putting on a show? Because we got company.
It's true. All my toys are stuck in my office at WB. They've just been sitting there.
Wow.
Oh dang.
Man.
We have toys to show off and display our influence to our coworkers and show how powerful we are. And it's flex, but they're all in my office.
Oh.
That's what they're like, I hope nobody stole all my toys in like the 2 years I haven't been there. Or I guess a year and a half.
Golly.
Maybe
you gonna play our favorite video, Q?
Oh, of course. Let us close it out with the official Jellystone approved video.
Oh,
unfortunately, I don't think Drake, Future, or Young Thug would approve of it, but who cares? We gonna play it anyway. Thank y'all for watching. We will see y'all later. Peace.
Yeah.
I'm too sexy for this girl, too sexy for your girl, too sexy for this world.